On this edition of Fulton at Work, Fulton County's Brownfield is one of 6 Georgia airports granted the funds it needs to maintain its economic vitality. And drivers are honking for joy now that they can renew their tag and license under one roof. I'm Daryl Carver. All that and more starts right now on Fulton at Work. Whether you call it Fulton County Airport or Charlie Brown Field, the airport on Aviation Circle just off of Fulton Industrial Boulevard is one of the busiest Class B airports in the region. Located 6 miles west of downtown Atlanta, it plays a vital role in supporting the region with over 1,000 jobs and $158 million in economic output for the local and regional economies. And thanks to Commissioner and FAA support, as well as major companies bringing jobs to Fulton County, the Fulton County Airport is thriving. Now, when we come back, we're going to talk to the airport's assistant manager to find out how the airport is improving and why Hollywood comes calling from time to time. Please stay with us. Welcome back to Fulton at Work. I'm Daryl Carver. In 2017, the Fulton County Airport, or Charlie Brown Field, received a grant for $1.2 million from the FAA as part of its airport improvement program. Between that grant and the BOC's approval of a $4 million renovation project during their February 2017 recess meeting and Hollywood requesting to film there, the airport, which is owned by the county, is also in very high demand. Now, joining us to discuss all that and more is the airport's assistant manager, Jason Penix. First of all, Jason, thank you for joining us here at Fulton at Work.
Thank you for having me.
Now, what is the FAA's Airport Improvement Program?
Well, the Airport Improvement Program is a fund that the FAA uses when they collect excise taxes on fuel sales from all airport users. So essentially, we are getting subsidized in part by any of the airlines that are coming through and purchasing fuel. That's put into a general fund and then selectively distributed to all of the airports around the United States to fund any infrastructure upgrades. And we were the happy recipient of those funds this year and have been pretty consistently over probably the last 20 or some odd years.
Now, Brownfield received a grant for $1.2 million as part of the FAA's infrastructure grant program. How exactly is that money being used?
Well, there's a serviceable life on any pavement that you have on an airfield. So what we ended up doing is electing to try to do a crack coat and seal and remarking project, which covered the entire surfaces of all of the movement areas that are existing on the airport. What that does is it extends the life of the pavement, so we get a longevity that you wouldn't normally receive. We had a repave project about 10 years ago. The serviceable life is about 20 years on any portion of pavement. So at the 10-year mark, you typically want to do something or take on a project that will extend that life so we get more bang for the buck. That's what we ended up doing, and that's where the $1.2 million actually went to.
So how often does Brownfield receive funding from the Airport Improvement Program, and how exactly is the amount of funding determined?
Well, actually, we get funding at some level almost every year. What happens is the FAA asks us to submit a 5-year plan of wish list projects that we may have. And they go and select these projects according to mainly 4 criteria. The first of which is safety and security. The next of which is rehabilitation or a replacement. The next is construction of new infrastructure, and that would be runways or taxiways you may want to add to the airport as a supplement if you are growing. And then last is anything that might generate revenue for the airport. And so if you've already built out to the point where you can't really grow anymore, you're going to be looking at projects where you're doing rehab or build of hangars or adjacent taxiways or apron surfaces. And that's the lowest priority. So this one was actually, again, to extend the life of the existing runway. So it was pretty high up on safety and security.
So what happens if you have a project that costs more than your entitlement funds? Can the FAA still help in any way?
Yeah, normally we compete with other airports for discretionary funds, and those are the supplementals to your entitlements. Now, what we do is we normally engage an engineer, and they do design, and they typically can do a design where they'll have a phasing. And what happens is when we get an allocation of funds from the federal government, we try to phase this in such a fashion that it will right size the project. So we may get a grant, or we may have a build out that may cost $10 million, but the FAA can only get us discretionary funds of about $3 million. So we look at the phasing, we might break down that $10 million project into a 3-part phase. So this first year we'll go ahead and do the $3 million that we were given by the FAA, and the next year we submit our plan for the next phase, and you sort of leapfrog your way through a project until you got a completed project.
Now, during the February 2017 recess meeting, the Board of Commissioners approved a $4 million renovation project for the airport. Did that money affect the money that you received from the FAA?
It did in part. Actually, that was initially purely FAA money, but there's a timeline on those funds, and it actually expired. But GDOT stepped up to the plate and brought that $4 million from the state funding. So we received those funds, and what we ended up doing, there's a large UPS logistics center that is now on the airport, on the northern portion of the airfield. It's a 1 million square foot sorting center that UPS is setting up, and it's their 3rd largest logistics center, and it's east of the Mississippi. It's the largest one east of the Mississippi. So they're taking up a large portion of airport land, but in the deal, what we ended up doing is they need to excavate about 1 million cubic square yards of dirt and remove that from their location, and they needed somewhere to put it. So our deal was, we have some unserviceable land. We had about 30 acres worth of inaccessible land. So the deal that we crafted allowed them to take this dirt, move it in, and fill in those areas that were inaccessible, thereby creating 50 acres worth of developable land along with the associated roadway to reach that land. And that's where the $4 million is actually being spent. So we're bringing that up to grade so that we will have now developable land for new hangars for any tenants that may want to come to the Atlanta area that have large flight departments, and they can build a hangar, build out to the existing infrastructure, and then commence flight operations.
And I know part of the thought process with making all these improvements is trying to attract additional business clients. Has airport traffic increased as a result of corporations either moving to Fulton County or as you mentioned, the building distribution centers that are here?
I believe traffic levels have been about the same, but the quality of those operations differ. Historically, you had a lot of light aircraft and piston operations. What we're seeing is a lot more of that falling to the wayside, and more of the industry has been devoted towards development of commercial or corporate aircraft, much larger size. So you'll see sort of an evening out of the amount of operations, but the quality of the operations, as I said before, is conducted by larger, longer distance aircraft. So the corporate aircraft that are coming through are buying more fuel, pretty consistent frequency, but they're taking up some of those landings and takeoffs and operations that were previously conducted by piston aircraft, which is primarily trainers. So we're really transitioning more into an executive airport. So a lot of our jet traffic has started to come in, and with that, more investment, and that becomes a multiplier for the local community. So any of these key business decision makers will come in and make those decisions and contribute to the Atlanta Metro, and therefore creating jobs and creating services to support those jobs, and it goes on and on and on, and makes a huge economic impact.
And if more companies follow suit, will that mean that more expansion for the airport will then be necessary as well?
To a certain degree, yes. Right now we meet basic criteria or slightly exceed the criteria you need for the corporate jet traffic that typically come through. We're at 5797 feet for the length of the runway. And the sweet spot is anywhere from 5,500 feet to about 6,000 feet. And that can pretty much accommodate any of the aircraft that may want to be, some can actually have transcontinental operations or at least coast to coast. So anybody that may be operating in California can get here, land, refuel, go back. So we're actually in a pretty good spot as far as the sweet spot. We are flanking the Chattahoochee River, we're abut that. So expansion to that degree is probably not an option. And I'm pinned in at by Fulton Industrial Boulevard. So there are limitations, but there are possibilities as far as a little bit more room for expansion to expand the runways. But right now we're sitting pretty.
And beyond what's going on the tarmac there, Hollywood also uses the airport to film a lot of movies. What kind of financial impact has that had on the airport?
Well, that's correct. They actually have been using the old terminal as a backdrop in many cases. Several recent films have actually filmed there and use it as the backdrop. But more of the multiplier, again, with catering services and with all the technical people that need to come through, along with the actors, it's more of an economic multiplier that we can provide. As far as direct impact to the airport, it's marginal. It's sort of minimal. It's the, again, the multiplier that you receive by operations conducted there, filming operations. That really drives it home and makes it a valuable asset.
Well, Jason Penix, thanks for that great information, and thank you again for joining us here on Fulton at Work.
Oh, thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Up next on Fulton at Work, we transition from the skies to the roads, where some one-stop shopping has created some happier drivers. We'll explain when we come back, so please stay with us. Welcome back to Fulton at Work. I'm Darrell Carver. Fulton County enters into an agreement with the state of Georgia to help motorists get a car tag and a new driver's license all at the same time and at the same place. Here's FGTV's Felicia Church.
With a small bouquet of balloons, the new Georgia Department of Driver Services office quietly opened on Maxwell Road. Now it's one-stop shopping for Fulton County motorists at the Water Resources Building in Alpharetta.
The driver's license expire at the same time, oftentimes, as your tag or your decal on your car. So this allows people to come in at one time, be able to do both services, and hopefully be a little bit more efficient for taxpayers.
The collaboration between state and county governments made the location possible.
It's an exciting partnership, many thanks to our elected officials, our governor who essentially helped us get the funding for this project, as well as our General Assembly. Just a wonderful opportunity to come together, again, as a good government opportunity, state and local partnership to make this happen.
Feeling its old location in Sandy Springs had become outdated, the new DDS Center is now part of a high-tech and efficient facility. As well as license and ID card issuances, renewals, reinstatements, knowledge testing, and road tests, which are by appointment only, visitors will notice more customer service counters, 12 touchscreen knowledge testing machines, 12 tech desk computers for customer applications and documentation, free parking, and seating for over 100.
We are happy to serve the citizens of Alpharetta, Roswell, and other communities, and we hope that our Sandy Springs customers will come here too.
And because both offices are located inside the Maxwell Road Water Resources Building, customers will soon be able to cross off a third item on their to-do list.
We really got a one-stop shop for the motor vehicles and your driver's license, but then pretty soon we're going to start construction on actually a water bill cashier office on the first floor here, so someone will be able to take care of 3 things in one stop. So we're really excited about being able to share our facilities with some other departments.
It's one more way Fulton County says it's living up to its mission of impact, service, and efficiency. Reporting for FGTV, I'm Felicia Church.
Thank you, Felicia. Joining us now to tell us more about this great facility is the Department of Driver Services Commissioner, Spencer Moore. First of all, Mr. Moore, thank you for joining us here on Fulton at Work.
Hi, Daryl. Thanks for having me.
So how did the idea for this merger come about, and how was it made possible?
This partnership was brought about by good government. Oftentimes, folks will say that government is not working in an efficient manner. In this case, I think it's an excellent opportunity to show where state and local partnership in state government and government in general was a wonderful thing for the citizens of North Fulton County.
Now, in what ways did this benefit Fulton County residents?
Well, the first and great way that this benefits the citizens of Fulton County and those who may choose to come from surrounding counties is that you'll have the opportunity to come into a wonderful new driver's license center where we have state-of-the-art technology that will help you have an efficient transaction with the state of Georgia Driver Services, as well as if you happen to need your tags renewed, you can also go right next door and work with them in order to get your motor vehicle tags updated. So just a wonderful opportunity where in the case of some customers come to us and they say, well, I was at the tag office, I couldn't renew my tag because I didn't have the updated current address on my driver's license. Well, you don't have to go to a separate location in order to handle that. You can now handle that at one location that's efficient and effective for you.
And does the new DDS office offer the same services as the old location in Sandy Springs?
The services are the same, but much more efficient. In the past location, we only had 17 counters. In this one, we have 21. So those added counters will help us serve the customers a lot more efficiently. Likewise, we only have 5 what we call tech decks, and that's the ability to process your applications online. Here we have 12. So those increases in efficiency will help the customer come and be served a lot faster than they have been in the past.
If you could, tell us a little bit more about the new center and why it's so much better than the old location.
Well, first of all, I can speak from a couple different standpoints of why it's much better. First, it's better for our employees. Our employees have been in a location, quite frankly, they had outgrown. It wasn't efficient. We had some technology problems. We had some HVAC problems, things that unfortunately could not be repaired. This gives us a state-of-the-art location where all those amenities that you would expect to have in a great workplace, our employees will have those. As a result, we hope they'll be more excited to serve the customers who come in from Fulton County. And again, as they come in, they will find a state-of-the-art facility, something that they've not seen in the past and in the other location. So we hope that they'll come and find this center to be enjoyable. While we hope they like the center, we hope they don't also stay long because we have been working really hard to make sure that our service times are much lower. So I expect our service level goal is 95% of our customers served in 30 minutes or less. I expect those folks who come into the new Alpharetta location will see that service level goal met.
And how can people renew their license online?
Having online services has been a wonderful thing for DDS. We saw a drop in the ability for folks to use their online services once we as a state became Real ID compliant. But in 2012, we launched Real ID, which means that simply that we are requiring any and everyone who comes and get a service, they provide us documentation like a birth certificate, etc., to prove that they are who that they say that they are. Once that's provided, though, the great part about it is you get a star on your license. That star then is a symbol that lets us know that you've been verified. Your future visits to DDS will be a lot more efficient, and if you choose not to come to a location, you can visit us online and renew your license right there. I'm also very, very happy to announce to Fulton County, although we've sent out a press release, I don't know if most folks know this, we're going to have a mobile app that will allow you to do a lot of these services online, mobile friendly, an opportunity again to serve the customers where they are. It's great that you come and visit us, but if you don't have to, we'd love for you to use our online services.
And for those who've changed their name due to marriage or divorce, adoption, etc., what must they do to ensure that all of their changes are up to date?
The first thing I would do is visit the DDS website before you make a visit to our centers. You'll find the information that you need there to ensure that you have the checklist of information that's required for you to be served and served efficiently. We'll have folks who come out from time to time and they simply don't have the right documents. Well, unfortunately, it's not up to the person that's there to determine whether or not you can be issued. We issued in accordance to state law. And state law they create the requirements that helps us to become an efficient and effective state. Again, we want to verify that people are who they say that they are, so they don't commit identity theft. So having those documents required really is all about the customer, trying to keep them safe.
If you could, just share your final thoughts about what this merger means.
I really appreciate the opportunity to come on and be a part of this great presentation. Again, thank all our elected officials in Fulton County as well as those around the state for creating this tremendous partnership that will go a long way to serving the citizens of North Fulton County.
Well, Spencer Moore, thank you so much for joining us here on Fulton at Work.
Thanks for having me.
And we're back to wrap up the show after this short break. Now that's all of our time. Thanks for joining us here on Fulton at Work, and a very special thanks to each of our guests. Now we want to connect with you online. Please check us out on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. I'm Darrell Carver, and we'll see you next time.